Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Paul, I'm with a Dicey review, and tonight we're going to be learning how to play the game Kingdoms of Erden, King of the Mountain. Now the base game of Kingdoms of Erden is a 2 to 4 player game, but this video is going to include a number of expansions that will allow players to expand the player count up to 6 players. We'll make sure to highlight the cards from each expansion at the start of the video. The core game for Kingdoms of Erden, King of the Mountain, comes with all of the components you see here, including decks of 9 cards for each of the 3 factions, and 2 copies each of the 5 wild cards. We'll also be using cards from the Reinforcements expansion. The Reinforcements expansion adds new characters to each army and adds new wild cards. We'll also be playing with cards from the Dwarven and Elven faction expansions. This expansion allows you to play with 2 completely new factions, the Elves and the Dwarves. This expansion also allows you to play with a number of new characters that have no faction allegiance but have very powerful special abilities. And finally, we will be using the Mercenary expansion. The Mercenary expansion includes a completely new faction that can pledge their allegiance to any other faction. This expansion also includes a banner for each of the other factions. The objective of Kingdoms of Erden, King of the Mountain, is to become the first player to declare dominance in one faction, or to be the last player to play a card to the discard pile while a card is still in your hand. To be dominant in a faction, a player must have a rank total equal to or exceeding 35. Many cards will have a faction based on their color and symbol in the top right of the card, and each card within a faction will have a rank as well. A player can claim dominance at any time if they possess a rank of 35 of a single faction. It's important to note that mercenary cards can be paired with any faction to add to their total, and it's important to note that there are wild cards and character cards with no faction allegiance that may add to faction dominance. To begin setup, shuffle the deck and deal 4 cards to each player. Then place the deck of cards face down in the middle of the table. Reveal the top card of the deck and place it face up next to the draw pile to form the discard pile. The top card of the discard pile is the current King of the Mountain. The player to the left of the dealer will go first. Beginning with the start player, each player will take a turn in a clockwise direction. On a player's turn, they have one of 3 options. The first option a player can take is they can play a character card face up onto the discard pile as an attack. To perform this action, a player must simply choose a card from their hand that is of a different faction than the current King of the Mountain and has a higher rank value. When a player does this, they may draw the top 3 cards from the deck and select one to keep. They will then place the other 2 back on top of the deck in any order that they choose. Alternatively, players can simply draw the top card from the deck as their reward. It's important to note that any character can defeat a wild card that has no rank value, and it's also important to note that mercenaries can attack other mercenaries. The second option a player has on their turn is to use a card's special ability. Each card has special ability text on the bottom of the card. To use a card's special ability, a player will play it from hand and follow the directions on the card. If the card is used to attack, like this King card, it must be a different faction than the current King of the Mountain. The card will dictate what reward each player will receive. For instance, this Dwarven King will allow a player to either draw the top 2 cards of the deck or pick one of the top 3 instead of the normal combat reward. If a special ability allows you to modify an attack and you win the attack, you will take the normal attack reward. It's also important to note that some cards' special abilities can be used in addition to a normal action. For instance, the Archer will allow you to reveal this card at the start of a turn to reduce the current King of the Mountain's rank. The Genie will allow you to reveal this card at the end of the turn to take an additional card reward from the pile. And the Spying Stone will allow you to reveal this card at the end of the turn to look at a card from one opponent's hand. Once again, these special actions can be done in addition to your normal turn. The The third thing a player can do on their turn is to play a wild card onto the discard pile for its special ability. To complete this action, a player will play a wild card to the discard pile and follow its instructions. Most wild cards can defeat character cards in certain situations. If a player cannot or will not use a card in one of these listed ways to cover the current King of the Mountain, they must give 2 cards to the player who placed the King of the Mountain as a tribute, and draw the top card of the deck as their reward. If the first card played in the game can't be defeated during a player's turn, they must place 2 cards under the current King of the Mountain card as tribute, and then draw the top card of the deck. If a player only has 1 card to give up, they have to give that card up and they draw no card as a replacement. It's important to note that if a player ever runs out of cards, they are out of the game and must pass the rest of their turns. They can, however, be brought back into the game if they are given a card by use of some special cards, such as potions. If the draw pile is ever exhausted, shuffle the discard pile and form a new draw pile, but be sure to leave the current King of the Mountain in place. The game will continue to be played in this way until one of the game-end conditions have been met, either a player gaining a rank of 35 in one faction, or a combination of one faction with mercenaries and factionless characters, and the game will also end if a player is able to play a card on top of the discard pile, and they're the last player to be holding a card. Alright everyone, thanks so much for watching. That was our video. We hope that it was helpful and we hope that it was informative. If you still have any questions about how to play the game, please comment below or email me directly at thedicey@gmail.com. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.